Okay, so in our first video, we put together the interface, and I showed you, the last thing I showed you was including the menu item here. And there's one more thing that we need to include here before we move on to the coding. So if you check in your user manual, it shows you on this page where you, yes, so where you have under edit, you've got font and color. So what you want to do is just simply click on edit and just add the text fonts. You could have it as fonts, and this, then just underneath it you can have colors. So the more you keep on clicking, it gives you suggestion to include here or on the side as a sub menu. Okay, so you've got this two done, and that's it. We just need fonts and colors, and that's that. So anytime you click on it, it suggests, do you want to add anything here or here? So we're done with the interface. So the next thing we're going to do is have a look at the code. So let's look at what the guide says, so that just in case there's something we're missing, it can be fixed. So let's start here with the exit button. For this one here, all you need to do is double click on the button first of all. Now have a look at the button. So here's the exit button, right? It's button 4, but we want to distinguish that. So let's name it exit BTN. So exit, we could give it, let's see, what name did we give it here in the code? Just exit BTN. So exit. So for this button, let's see, exit BTN. Let's see if it accepts that. Hopefully it does. Yes, it does. Let's see, is that the same way I put it there? Okay, it's in small case. Doesn't really matter. You just have to be consistent with it, but I just want to follow the guide. Okay, so we have exit BTN. So this button, you would see that the name has changed to exit BTN. And here you'll have button 3. You can rename them, but let's move one step at a time. So we've now renamed this as exit BTN. If we double click on the button, you'll see here you don't have exit BTN like you have in your guide. In your guide it says exit BTN underscore click, but here you see button 1 underscore click, but at the right you have exit BTN here. Please do not change anything here. Do not modify anything here or here. Just leave it as it is. Leave it as it is. So all you're simply going to be doing is typing this code from dim to end if. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to type that in. And we'll continue, just so that the video is quicker. Just so that the video is not too long, I'm just going to simply pause, have the code in, and we'll continue. Okay, so I've typed out the code here, and it ends here in end sub. Remember I said do not touch this, do not delete anything here, do not modify this first line. This first line is to be untouched. Same with the end sub. All you need to do is just type what you see here. So we'll save our work, come back to the front end, and let's run this app and see what happens. So here's your interface, and I'm going to click on exit, and you should have this. Confirm if you want to exit. Say yes, and that's it. So the button is working fine. So we'll move on to the next thing on your in your guide. The next thing is the add button we'll be configuring. And note what it says here. It says note that each item was named uniquely in the properties tab and used here. The text boxes were named for there's a name, for example, full name, txt, full name, blah blah blah. So we're going to use the same naming convention here. So we'll follow the way it was named in the guide. You could have different names, but you should make sure that you follow your you should have consistency when you're naming your tools. So I'll just do that. Let's jump over. We'll start with, so everything, we're just adding txt to it anyway. So let's go over here. So what are we naming? First of all, identify the text boxes or the labels, because so that you don't get confused. So it's text boxes we're naming. We're not naming the labels yet. If we need to name the labels, we will do that. So it's text boxes we're working with here. So we'll start with text box 1, which is supposed to be full name. So it's txt. So let's see how we did it in the, it was also txt full name. So it's just txt full name. So what you have is, so I'm just going to follow this same convention: txt pet name, txt dob, and so on. So txt full name, txt pet name. So this one, let's see, pet type. I'm using this here just to follow the convention. So we're renaming our text boxes. So txt pet type. Okay, so we've named this txt pet name. So this one is txt pet type. So let's see, is that the same way? Yes, pet type. Notice I'm being very careful just to make sure that I'm using anything I'm going to use. I have to be consistent. dob, txt dob, txt appointment, txt time. Click on the next one, txt appointment. Make sure your spelling, you're consistent. So even if you make a mistake with the spelling, you have to make sure that that's what you're going to use throughout, or you change that quickly. Time of appointment, you change that box. Txt, let's see, what was it here? Just time, txt time. And this one should be txt comments, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, txt comments. Okay, we're done. So when you click on them, you see their names show when you click on each of them. So txt appointment, txt dob, txt pet type, txt pet name, and txt full name. Okay, make sure that because this is very important in your coding part. So when you go back to your code, you need to add this code underneath your add button. So what you need to do is from if, remember, do not touch the first line, private sub, whatever is there, just leave it as it is, even if it's not exactly the same as mine. So you can see this is button 1, but I may want to change that just so that I'm able to identify the button. It doesn't matter, you don't need to change the button name because we're not going to use it. We're just going to stick to, you can see here it says it's just button 1 here. I'm just going to change mine to, you know what, let's leave it just so that you don't do anything to model up your work. Leave it as it is. So what you're going to do is double click on the add button and it brings you straight here. Now here is where it's good to follow this step. Now what I find is it's bringing me to, you can see the cursor is here in this button and it's showing me the exit button. So I'm going to go back again. Let me double click on exit button just to be sure that I put the code in the right place. So it's showing me here that it is in the right place. We also tested it earlier. So what is supposed to happen here is it's supposed to take me to a different section, but what is happening is it has selected, you can see it has grouped button 2, button 3 together with this one. So it's it's more or less grouped. So if I can't work with it this way. So you remember the earlier step that I showed you replicating this, and that's what I did. And what it did was it didn't separate them as individual objects. So what you're having here is if I double click on remove, it's still bringing me here. Okay, I don't want that. I don't want that because then it will be a mess. So what's going to happen is I'll simply delete these two buttons. And if I double click on the post button, let's see if it's doing the same thing. Yeah, it's doing the same thing. So this button here has basically taken the control. So what I'm going to do is you can see that I've deleted those other buttons, so you can't see them here. So I'm just going to correct this by deleting the other buttons. So I'm going to put them one at a time. So that copying and pasting option affected the properties as well. So I'm just going to go over to buttons, and I'll just click and drag. I'll start with the post button. Just because of time, I'm just going to do ordinary buttons. So you'll modify your buttons as you deem fit later. So this is a post button. Now what I could have done possibly was, okay, if this is the size of button I'm using, for example, I could just duplicate that real quickly before adding any properties to it. So now let's try something and see. If I double click, it takes me to a separate button. So let's try this one. Double click, let's take me to a separate button. Yes, button 2, it's taking me to a separate button. Very good. Double click again, it should take me to a third. Yeah, so we have 1, 2, 3. As you can see, it has separated them. So this one is on its own, these ones are on their own. So I'm just going to change the captions on them. Text, I had deleted the text on it, that's why you can see it blank. So I'm just going to have this as posts, this one as add. Let's just check to be sure that I'm following. Yeah, add and remove, and that's all. Add, and this will be remove. So I'm not going to take the time to put in images and all of that just because of time. You know how to do that, so just do that. I'll just change the fonts just to make sure that the fonts match. Make that 14. Okay, so the principle of common shapes, and so it looks like you can see that these ones seem to be in the same category. This is standing on its own, so I could choose to have this here. I could choose to just have this here if I want to. I know we have an exit button, but this gives us a confirmation option, so I could have that here just because of the design, just so that it's unique. It's up to you. You can have it any way you want to. So we've corrected that initial error. Save the work. So next thing, we'll go back to what we're doing. So we wanted to include code in our add section. So you can see now it brings us here. So in our add button, I'm just going to name this add btn. I'm just going to name just so that I'm able to tell them apart. You don't have to do this. So if I double click, you can see here it says add btn. So from your code, what you have in your guide, it tells you to type all of this in. Now take note, you can only type this word for word if the names of your buttons are the same as the ones you have here. So if, for example, you have txt name, you don't have txt full name, you'll be making a big mistake to just use this. So you have to use the exact name for your button just as you typed it in. Okay, so I've typed in everything. So what you have here is, remember I said don't touch this first line. Where you're starting to type from is from if, and you type all of this. So what you're basically saying, if item 1 is equals to this, add this to this. So what you have here in your front view is you want to have all of these items, right? When you type in the details here and you click on add, you're simply saying anything that is typed here should be added here when you click on the add button, and that's why we're configuring the add button. We'll come to post now, and I'll tell you what post is for. Now if you like, you could have add button here just so that because it's the first page showing on the record, so you could have add here and leave post here just so that you move seamlessly, because the first page you have is putting this to the record sheet. This is the record sheet, so the post will go to appointment. So let's do it like that, 1 and 2. It's another good way of designing your interface. So you can have add here just so that you know this is the first tab and it goes into the first page in your tab control. Okay, so the code, like I said, make sure you've double clicked on it, and that's why you're putting the code. So everything here, it says see dim item 1 as list view item. This item 1 we're talking about is a list view item, and remember we have a list view here, list view 1 here, and that's why we have it as this. So item 1, you're talking about the items within the column. We're talking about the items within the column, and you're saying paste, that's add these items onto the table in the columns. So you're saying, remember we're using one list view and it has different columns, and what you're simply doing is you're just simply adding sub items to that table. So you have text full name, the text, and all of that. Remember we named our boxes, so our boxes will be appended here. Else, it's saying that now, of course, you have situations where there may be nothing. If there's nothing added to it, you don't want it to return an error. So what you have here, this is what it says. If not add item, if there's nothing, basically you just simply say or there's the record already exists. This message here will just say either there's a duplicate error or it already exists. Okay, this is just so that we don't have an error when you try and input something onto the table. Else, you also have these other options here. Now remember when you for your code, let's look at where you have this in your manual. So in your manual you have this, and it ends here with end with. If you go to the next slide, you see it continues. It shows you end with and it shows you end if. So you have end if twice. So go back to the code. So you see you have the end if here, you have end with and end if. If you have anything else other than this, please delete it. Just make sure you're typing the right thing. Okay, so on your guide you're basically continuing from the previous page. The reason why I left end with here is just so that you see where it's continuing from. So you don't start by typing end if again, you have it once. So end if, end with. So it's just showing you that you're continuing from after end with, you add another end if. That's where you stop. This whole block ends with end sub. So if you come here, you see end if, end with, end if, then you type this, and end sub. Okay, so we're done with the add button. So let's save that. Let's run it and see. So if I simply say add, you can see to add, it didn't return an error, and it allowed the last piece of code that I just showed you. It allows you to paste empty items into the columns, and this one here is already here. So if we just put in anything random, I'll just put in some random things. See what the calendar looks like. And click on add. So you can see it adds it automatically to the next column. If I say add again, it says details already exist because I didn't change anything from the previous one there. Okay, so details already exist. If I say yes, leave it like that. So we want to remove, of course we haven't configured our remove button yet, so it's not working. We haven't configured our post button, but we've configured our exit button. So just exit, say yes. Okay, so we're done with the add button, and this is what you need to type in. You could be pausing, you could pause the video and type it in. So you type in from here down to end. If that's the block of code you need to type in, then you have this other bit as well where you've got this. You already have end sub, so you don't need to type in end sub. Type this allows you to put in blank code, submit anything blank. So the next button, if you look at your guide, is the remove button you want to configure. Now to configure this, you need to first of all declare some constants at the top. So what will happen is you have to declare v as string, and this v1 and v2 as string as well. So let's do that at the top. So first of all, just remember to go, when you go back, double click on remove. I'm just checking the time to be sure. I just want to see how long this is taking. So what I did was I simply double clicked on remove button, just so that you know where you're putting your code. And oh, sorry, it's not the code first. You're going to declare at the very top of the code. So this is what I'm supposed to type. So I'm going to type that real quickly and continue. Okay, so all you just need to do was to put in this. Now the reason why we're putting this as string is just so that we don't need to type this full name all the time. So anywhere you see v1 v2, you're basically seeing you're going to, it's saying see it as full name as well. So we're going to use that later in our code, and that's why we're basically declaring them as constants. We're going to use them in some of the operations there. And you have v as a blank string, so nothing is put in there. But for v1 you have this, and for v2 you have that. Okay, so the next thing you're supposed to do, if you look at the guide, is to double click on the button and put in this code, list view one dot selected item blah blah blah. So we've done that already. So what you're supposed to do is just double click on the remove button and have this type there. So you refer to the list view, and you want to be able to remove or delete items there and make them blank. So when you click on it, you're basically saying that you should remove the item. And of course, like you saw earlier, just now, I declared v as a blank item, so you should just take it as a blank item, replace it with blank. So we'll save that, and we'll do that quickly. We'll just test it. So when we say add, of course I haven't typed anything. If I click on this, I want to delete it, I say remove, you can see it has taken and replaced it with blank space. Okay, I noticed of course that the size here doesn't show everything, so I have the option of resizing that. So you could do that, just resizing the font on the list view, just so that it's smaller, it's contained within that window. So go to fonts. I'm just going to drop that to about maybe 6, or let's make it 7. Oh, can't go less than 7. So just put it on 8, just to leave it like that. Okay. Okay, that's fine. The next thing we're going to be doing is, so we've configured the remove button, we've configured the add button. So let's look at what the manual says. Tab control, we've added these items already, so we'll go on to next. So what we want to do is want to be able to print preview. So in our menu, we're going to get print document and print preview. So click on the print preview dialog and go to properties. So we're supposed to add these properties first of all from our toolboxes. So you go to toolbox, go to print. So you can see here the options you have there is a print document and print preview dialog. So print preview dialog, you click and drag it there, and print document. So you've got print document. Okay, so you see it sees as print document 1 and print preview dialog. So you've got these two items there. When you click on it, you'll notice the properties change on the right. So what we're doing here is click on the print preview dialog 1 and go to the properties window and change the document option to print document 1. So print preview dialog, we're going to change that. We'll go to document option. So we'll go to print preview dialog, and we'll change on the document here, we'll change this to print document 1. Of course, it's making reference to this. Okay, so that's basically it for this slide. We'll go to the next one. It says print document, so double click on print document 1 option and insert the code below. So this is the code that is required for you to type in. So I'm going to double click on print document. So that's this, sorry, print document 1, that's this here. Double click on it, it takes you to the code. So this is where you're supposed to put the code from your guide. So I'll just do that quickly. So just before we do our print document code, remember we put in a text box here. So when you click on this, so like I said before, we go ahead and configure our print document with the code, what you want to do is you go to the appointment page. Remember we put a text box there. Now that text box, you could leave it on it with its default name, but you have to make sure that you change that in the code. But what I want to do is basically use the code post. I want to name the text box post text box. Okay, post text box. You could give it any name you want, but make sure you use it in the code as well. So text, so I've named that to post text box. So when you go to print document, because you want to be able to print this as a confirmation page for the customer, for the person bringing in their pet. So when you double click on print document, it takes you to the code. So this is a code that you're going to type in. Now if you named your text box something different, you have to make sure you change this. This is the name of the text box. So what you're saying to this code is basically print whatever you have on the text box with this default values here. Okay, so that is for your print document code. The next thing here is your print strip. So your print tool. So you have on your menu the print option. So what you want to do is double click on that first. So you come here and you double click on print and it brings you here. So you see private sub print tool strip menu item. So this is the code that goes underneath that. So you do that. I'll just do that real quick. Okay, so this is the code that needs to go in between private sub and end sub. So make sure you have all that typed. The message box, of course, whatever you have here, you can modify that. It's just a pop-up that comes up to input text. So message box, please input text. So we're done with that. The next step, let's go to the next slide. So for the save as option, this is the code that goes there. So what you want to do is just simply double click on save as file option, and you're just going to put this code there. So it's as simple as that. Double click on it, that's on the menu, and you will just do the same thing. So when you come here, double click on save as, not single click, double click, and you see it brings you directly where you should put the code. Save as tool menu item. So I'll just put in the code. So here is what you have on the private sub, and you type everything down to end if. So what you're simply saying is just save this file to as a text file, and of course the directory, it will just give you the option, the Windows dialog box, to tell you of course the default location will be where the files are stored on your system, so you can save it as a text file. So that is done for the save as option. So it's saying That's you're getting it from the post text box. So remember, we've named this text box so it knows where it's getting its file from. This is input output file. Write all text and save as file name. It gives you that option and you save it there. So that is that step done. The next thing you're going to be doing is the appointment tab. Now in the appointment tab, let's see, you want to have the option of changing colors and fonts for the text box. So insert the text box in the appointment tab, which you've done already. Add a font dialog and color dialog from the toolbox. So what we're going to do is simply come over here and go to your toolbox, and what we want is the font dialog and color dialog box, or tool, sorry, font dialog. You can just double click that and it goes there straight. And you want the color dialog as well. So go to toolbox and you look for color dialog. So you double click that and that's it. So you've got those two there. Make sure you save your work. So let's look at the guide. What does the guide tell us to do? It tells us under the font dialog, you should change this show color to true. So it says add a font dialog and color dialog from toolbox, which we've done. We've already done this. Remember, we named it as post text box. This first step here, we've done it. We've put a text box there. In the font dialog properties box, change show color. That's change show color option to true. So let's go over to font dialog. So this is font dialog. It says change show color from false to true. Make it true. Okay, so we've done that for that step. And the next thing we're going to do is configure the post button. Now this is where you will of course take your time to type. We've done this already for the BTEC calculator, so you have an idea of what this is. So I'm not going to spend time explaining what this is, but you're basically putting a post button so that it will post whatever you've put in your text boxes and your date boxes, and putting it on a page, that post box, that post text box. So everything here is saying carry everything you have here, put it on this page so that we can print. Okay, so remember earlier on I said that we didn't name our labels. It was our text boxes we named. So you'll find that when you type the code, it will give you this error, this line to say it is not declared, it's not declared. Now the reason that is because of course we haven't named them. So let's use this one. Let's go to full name. Let's copy full name, full underscore name, and let's come to our form here. So remember, we didn't give names to our labels, we gave names to our text boxes. If we like, we could say label 2, we could change this to label 3. So I could come here and say label 2, label 3, label 4. But what I want is I want to use the actual name. .text is just simply the property, so you don't need to put that extension there. You don't need to include that. So when I come here and I click on full name and go over to name, and I change that name, full name, and you go back to your code, you click on it, you can see that red line has disappeared under full name, so it's not returning the error. So what you're simply doing is giving names to those labels and the errors will disappear. So name of pet, I'm going to change the name paste it. Type of pet, do the same thing, just take the code. Pet type, you're just taking the names, and you see the red lines will disappear accordingly. Date of birth, so that's just DOB. Make sure you're clicking on the right item. Then date of appointment, it just says appointment. I could have put date of appointment, but that's fine. So date of appointment, I just used appointment. Time of appointment is appointment time. Control C. It's already clicked. Comments. It's going to be comments. And you save it. So you can see all the errors have gone. Everything is intact. So post text box is the name of the box, the text box there, and that is, we're done with the post button. So let's scroll down and see the menu strip option, add menu strip. We've done this already, so that's fine. Remember with the guide, it was structured according to the classroom setting then. So here I've done some things already. So here it says add menu strip with color and font editing for specialist needs. We've done that. And let's see what else. I'm just checking to see if we've missed anything. So this fonts dialog you see here and color dialog, they're attached to this menu here, fonts and colors. So what we're supposed to do is double click on fonts, and that's where you get where you put your code. So we'll do the same thing. So come over here for colors, you double click as well, and you see these two items. You put the code there, the code on your in your instruction guide. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so we've got the font code there. Make sure you type in this from this to this. That's if to end if, and make sure that you're not editing anything here on this first line, private sub. So what you're simply saying here is if the font dialog show box, this code here just simply says that you can basically change the properties of the font sizes on the post text box. Okay, using the dot fonts extension, and this one for the color. This one gives you the power to be able to change color. This for specialist needs as well, to be able to change colors for that. Okay, so we're done with this too. Let's look at the guide again. What else? So you've got this here, as you can see, it shows what happens. So this is, we've added the menu strip and we've just configured those properties for the edit option. We'll test it very soon, but let's look at what next needs to be done. So the mouse hover option, where you will click, you basically put your mouse over a text and it grows bigger. Now this is what you need to do. You double click on any of the labels, for example full name. In the code view, go to the click event tab on top, and below the menu bar choose mouse hover. So what I'm going to do is come over here, double click on this, so it brings me here, and I click on this option here where you've got the events, and what you're looking for is the mouse hover option. So you see the mouse hover option, just click on it and it brings up this properties here. So let's look at the instruction, what it says here. So that's it. So you're going to insert the code. What code are you inserting? You click on the next page, you should see the code. Now you see here it says to see as v1 as full name. This is where we need it. So what you need here is to type, we've done this already. I've shown you this. You declare this at the very top of your form. That's under form 1. It's at the top. We've done that already. The next one here is to type, this is what you need to do now. Full name dot font is equals to this. You can change, of course, we'll change the font we're using, and you can change the size. So this is what you're going to be applying on each of those options there, and you're going to also be picking the mouse leave option, so that when the mouse leaves it returns back to its original size. So we'll go over here and we're going to be typing the code here. So as you can see, we've typed this in. So I put a default value first of all, just so that I can show you how you will change this. Now it depends on the font you're using. So this is the font I'm using. If you go over to fonts here, you see the name of the fonts there. So it's minimal SF. So I can copy this here. So just copy the name of the font from here and go back to your code, and I'm going to change that minimal SF and it will increase to 20, and when it increases it will be bold, and instead of typing that's full name dot text will be equals to v1, it's just the full name. So what it will show is the full name. So remember, we declared v1 at the top, which is full name. So v1 is equals to full name basically. So you want, when you remove your mouse, for it to return back to its normal size. So its normal size here, if we check under fonts like we did, when you click on full name or any of them for that matter, since we use the same font, it's 13. I think it's 13 we used. So let's check. Did we use, okay, we used 14. So that's the normal size. So normal size, so this, when it gets bigger, when you hover, it gets to 20, and you want to first of all add. So you go up here and you choose mouse leave. When you click on mouse leave, you see that it gives you another block of code here. So this is your mouse hover and this is your mouse leave option. So you can simply copy and paste this, or just look at the code here, which of course just simply says, so for the mouse leave option, what is the same code you have here, but you have the default size. So, and you change this to v2 because we declared v1 and v2 on top, so v2 will be equals to full name. So we'll just do that quickly. For that, I'll change this to v2 and the default size is 14. So just save that, and you apply this for other fonts as well. So you will do that. So you apply that for name of pet, type, and the rest. Just do that for 3 and you're good. So you can see, put your mouse on it, it changes like that. So if I say add here, and if I come to the appointment sheet, if I say posts, it will post this and you can see the size. So the next thing you're going to do is, we want to change the color of the background whenever we have the mouse on it, so that it can hover. When you click on the save as, remember we've configured all of this, it tells you, of course, you choose where you want to save it. The print, where have we configured? Okay, yeah, we've configured print, and has a print preview. For edits, when you save, when you click on fonts, it will give you the font dialog box for you to change your fonts, of course, to any size you want. You can also change colors using the color option, red, and it changes. So let's exit, say yes. Okay, so we're almost getting to the end of this. So we've done, I just showed you for one example, that's full name, so you can apply it for the remaining text. I expect you to apply it for at least 2 more, so we have 3. So the text hover option, I think, is the last thing we need to complete. So for the text hover option, what you're going to be doing first of all is click on the appointment tab and double click on the text box, which is in the middle, and you'll select the mouse hover option, and under the mouse hover option you'll type this code, and that type, and what you're simply doing, you're telling to change to another color. So let's do that quickly. So under the appointment tab, you have a text box. You double click on the text box, it brings you here, and you choose mouse hover. Mouse hover. Remember, you're going to do this for your BTEC calculator as well. Mouse hover. So mouse hover, and the code you're simply going to be working with will be this one here. Just me.post text box .back color. So you just put that in, and that's the first step before you do the mouse leave option. So you've got that there, and what you want to do is, now that you're done with mouse hover, that's it changes to yellow green. This for demonstration purposes. You can change this color to any color you want. You could make this red. You could just, all you have to just do is just type the color, of course, red. It gives you options of colors when you try when you want to type in. So let's see if it gives me purple. So let's see, medium purple. Okay, so I want, when you remove your mouse, of course it returns to the default color, and default color, so you choose mouse leave, and it's the same code you use, just that you change the color back to probably white, because that's the default color. That's the default color. Okay, save your work and you preview. Click on the appointment sheet. You can see it changes to medium purple. So we're just going to test run this and say David, name of pet is Cleo, cat. Just leave the dates as they are, put the time, sick. So I'm going to post here so that I have a look at this. So what you're meant to achieve here is, of course, you're giving options of color contrast for your users to cater for people with color blindness. The pop-up is for people with visual impairment, so you add that. You can add that to this, add that to your buttons as well. Sorry, your other labels, you add it to your labels. And of course this is for the user. So when you add this, it comes here, and this should remove any item there. So everything is functional now. All of this functional. The print preview page, save as, everything is functional. This will save as a .text file, a text file. So if you've done all of this, you're done. So what I hope you will do when you've finished with your code is to make sure that your interface is unique, just designed in such a way that it's unique. You could have all of these labels and your input boxes at the top, and you could have this at the bottom. You could rearrange it, change your button styles, make it unique to yourself, add anything else, but at least you know the main functions, these main functions, and you're supposed to apply these functions, especially the same functions like your font dialog, print, the menu option. Add that to your BTEC calculator as well. I know in that video I didn't show you how to do it, but it's the same thing you're going to be doing. You just take note of what it is that you need to change. If you need to change the name, the text box you're using there, if you're using a text box there, then of course you apply text box option. If you're not, that's fine. All you just need to do is include this, which is of course the hover option, the text hover option, the color background change color option, or you could put a magnifying glass, and you should have the you can have the print option as well. You should include the print option. When you include the print option, all you just need to put is basically you have them here and you have it in your guide. So make sure the things that are missing in your BTEC calculator from this one, you're applying it there. Okay, so thank you for your time.